arranging the talk and also for hosting us under GSO's umbrella. طبعا the talk, the first talk is Introduction to Mining and Minerals of Oman. Obviously, we will not be able to cover all the minerals. We will go through most of them. Lakin we will pay attention to probably the most potential ones in Oman. And we'll also give brief on the others and where they can be found. And you can also ask questions, so we can address these later in the evening, inshallah. I expect the talk to take maybe 30 minutes to 40 minutes, not more than that. Myself, I'm Muhammed Kindi. I teach part-time at German University, but currently I'm more busy with this center called Earth Sciences Consultancy Center. So this series was supposed to have 4 talks actually. However, one of them, the one which was supposed to be presented by Ibrahim Sawafi, unfortunately got cancelled. And in all cases, I've included some of the slides that Ibrahim was supposed to present in my slides. And there will be another presentation. Is it going to be on the 27th, Abdul Mun'im, for Abdul Samad Rawa?
Yes, Abdul Samad will be in 27 and Layla Al-Habsi in 24. I'm going to send an email tomorrow morning, inshallah.
Okay, so that's a week from today, I guess. And Abdul Samad is going to present about the mineral exploration and resource estimation. So he's going to give you a brief about how to do the mining modeling work. So it's really a very good talk. I really encourage you a lot to attend Abdul Samad's talk. He's really one of the experienced Omanis in the field, and you should learn a lot from him. Much more than myself. I'm quite new in the business, probably the last 4 years or so. I'm more into petroleum actually, but we've done quite many mining projects in the last few years. So I was another one called SEEP, and for each map there is what you call it, a code for it as well. And you buy these from PAM, previously PAM, Public Authority of Mining, is now a Directorate of Minerals under the Ministry of Energy and Minerals. So you can buy them from there, and there are 2 components of it. There is the map, which I'll show you in a minute, and the booklet. And the booklet usually is for 10 riyals, and the map for 15 riyals. And there are also 100,000 maps covering North and South Oman. And these are usually covering areas of high mining potential in overall, or populated cities. So you will find some covering, for instance, Muscat, actually Muscat now there is a new surveying called the geohazard map of Muscat, and that one is even greater details, and it was recently done under previously Public Authority of Mining. So for each map, if you decide to buy the booklet, this is the booklet of Muscat, and it's quite important to realize that these booklets are set up. So for these booklets, you will find what do you call it? Description of the formations, starting from the oldest in that zone or that area into the youngest, and then at the end there will be explanation of the structural evolution of that area, as well as the hydrology or hydrogeology and mineral occurrences in that area. So potential mineral presence or occurrences in that area. And they're quite good description, but there has been a lot of research In fact, one of the potential PhD or PhDs to be done in Oman is to kind of update these maps, you know, because there has been a lot of research that happened after. Because remember, this has been done at least 20 years ago, or around 20 years ago, and therefore there has been a lot of research and understanding. Also, the satellite images now in Oman actually promotes better definition of the formation boundaries. So I actually urge some of you to look at that, you know, potential of doing postgrad studies to update some of these maps, maybe PhD studies or master studies. So when you go to the map would basically include the map, the geological detailed map of the area. And frankly speaking, there hasn't been much of work to update these maps in the last 20 years at a regional scale. Yes, in local scales, but not in regional scales. So all the maps that you find for Oman nowadays are just kind of recycling or re-updates of these maps or reproduction of these maps, to say. And therefore, again, as for lithology and stratigraphy, they're quite good maps. But for structural geology, there should be a lot of updates on the maps, because a lot of the structural geology work on these maps is not, or let's say there is a room to like, for instance, these maps, in many of these maps, you will see a lot of reverse faults in Jabal Akhdar. So if you look at Jabal Akhdar, you will see loads of reverse faults, and you may question the presence of a lot of these reverse faults to be actually rotated normal faults that may look in outcrops as reverse faults, but in reality they're actually rotated or tilted normal faults. This kind of thing. So there is a lot of update, but they're very good in terms of lithology. That's why people heavily rely on them. And then on the right side of them, you will get very good description of the stratigraphy. So you get something called the autochthonous or para-autochthonous, you know. And that includes everything basically which was deposited prior to the abduction of the ophiolite and the Hawasina apes back in the late Cretaceous. And then on top of that, you get the allochthonous units, which basically includes the Hawasina apes, which is composed of three main formations: Al-Arad group, Cow group, Umar group, and the fourth main one, Hamra Duru group. So you get four groups within this super group, which is called the Hawasina super group. And every one of them has its own, mining potential. A lot to be studied in this front. And I just want to say in the beginning, by the way, although mining has started in Oman some 5,000 years ago, when the old Omanis started to mine for copper, and then there has been intensive studies since 50 years ago, in the beginning of the 1970s. There are very, very limited Omanis who are actually experienced in mining. If you go to the petroleum field, there are many Omanis who are experienced in that field, but in the mining field, there are really very few. And even those who've done PhDs in mining or studies relevant to mining, they have not continued in the subject. So it's very unfortunate to say that currently we don't have many skilled Omanis in the field, and there are probably no Omani who's can be considered experienced with required certificates to do the full-fledged studies of mining so far. So that's one of the unfortunately pitfalls or disappointing things, let's say, in mining industry in Oman. So again, autochthonous here, the Hawasina supergroups with the ophiolite. So you get the Samail names here, including the mantle sequence in the lower part, and then the crustal sequence on the upper part. With the Suhaila formation, I don't know if you know Suhaila formation, I just read it here now, so it's good to mention it. It's basically the umber and the radularian chert, which is capping the pillow lavas on top. So you can see it as a thin unit in some places. And it's a beautiful, nice outcrop, which caps basically the oceanic floor near the oceanic ridges when the ophiolite was being produced in the oceanic ridges. And then on top of that, you get the tertiary sequence or the Cenozoic sequence. So basically all this limestone that was deposited on top. Beside that, you also get the late Cretaceous deposits, something called Kahla Formation. It's actually Qalhat Formation, but apparently it was misspelled when it was written. So Kahla Formation and Thaqaf Formation, and these are late Cretaceous deposits that were deposited after the emplacement of the ophiolite and recycling, basically, of weathering and erosion of the allochthonous units. So you get to find, for instance, a lot of laterite deposits within the Kahla Formation because it's weathering or erosion and weathering of the ophiolite sequence and deposition of laterite rich soil. Then you get the tertiary sequence on top, and obviously on top of that you get the recent quaternary deposits of Aeolian sand, for instance, alluvial deposits, Sabkha deposits, all kind of stuff that has been happening on the surface of Oman in the last, say, 2 million years or so. So, and within these maps, you get also other stuff. So I just jumped actually to the next slide. So you will get also the structural features. You will get as well as the economic geology. So by looking at these maps, you can see where chromite pods have been mapped, copper occurrences, gold, for instance. So they're really very rich, you know, and people who've done these maps were quite experienced, and they've done a lot of literature review. And unlike many software geologists nowadays, the old geologists were very good field geologists. So they've done a lot of walking to confirm these occurrences, and they obviously had other facilities as well, like satellite images or helicopter transportation, so they were able to move from different places in Oman. So you get here economic deposits, you get faults, all types of faults, dikes and sills, contacts, you know, bedding, dip measurements, and other linear elements. And then you also get simplified stratigraphy or a lithostratigraphic column here within the map, and you also get a simplified map of the structural features. You get a very nice cross section. I really like the cross sections which are normally presented in the map, and then you get the location of these maps as well. I just wanted to give you a thorough look at these maps because they're very important for you, and many people do not realize their values. They're very valuable. It can be very informative. You can spend good hour looking at the various features within these maps. There have been a lot of reports as well, but there's again room for big updates as well. So you'll see a lot of reports have been done in the 1980s, some in the 1970s, some in the 1990s, and then a few of them, or a very few of them, let's say general reports that cover all the mining aspects beyond 2000. And then again, this shows that there is actually potential to do further work in this aspect and to dig more into the research and literature in order for us to be able to update these maps. So Oman actually has high potential for mining, I believe myself, and it just needs more bright geologists like yourselves to be able to find out and maximize the potential of mining in Oman. Just like petroleum, we have a lot of oil and gas in Oman. It is just a matter of geologists and just scientists in general to be able to find these potentials as well as capitalize on them. So you will see, for instance, one of the famous reports was this, Industrial Rocks and Minerals in 1995. There was another one done on the same year, I think, both in 1995. There's one by Dr. Hayat, was done in 2004. A small booklet here called Industrial Rocks and Minerals, Development Possibilities. There is another done by BRGM in 1987. There is one also done by Roger et al., BRGM. So this is the BRGM group about the geology of Dufan 1994. There has been a recent study, often called the German study, was done by Germans, apparently, with the collaboration of PAM at that time, Public Authority of Mining, as well as Geotech, German University of Technology. And it's called an evaluation of the mineral and mining sector in the Sultanate of Oman. Anyways, all these studies need updates, and I trust that inshallah, one of us or some of you will be able to produce similar reports in future. We have many geologists or geoscientists, I should say, in Oman, and they can really produce a lot of good work in the next decades. This is an overview. I don't know where the source of this graph comes from. It might be coming from Yusuf Ad-Dir'i, who works in the Earth Sciences Consultancy Center. I found it in one of my archives. So, but I don't know where it comes from. So apologies for the person who made it. So you would see here production of various production. Let's say I think this would be probably 2016, and then maybe this one. No, it's the other way around. So this would be 2016. This is 2017, and this is 2018. Yeah, I think so. Looking at the numbers here. So this is here مواد البناء, which is basically building materials, aggregates basically. You see most of the production here is for aggregates. We have loads of deposits here in Oman that work as very good aggregates. Most of people mine, for instance, the gabbro, and others also mine alluviums, the recent deposits, especially this alluvium that comes from the dolomite or metamorphosed limestone in Oman. So you would see a lot of crushers scattered in Oman producing these. Then you get a lot of production of limestone. In Oman, we have a lot of limestone. We will see that in details in a minute. We have a lot of deposits of gypsum. We have a bit of production of marble. Marble, one of the challenges is production techniques as well as the marketing needs to be done, at high level in order to ensure profitability and good returns. There is also production of clays, laterite, chromite, of course, although it's small quantities, as you can see here, compared to industrial rocks, but it's still a good return because of the high prices of chromite. Then there is also quartzite production, silica, maybe a little bit only production, but it still features there. And this is one of the things that needs to be capitalized in Oman. So I made this, I was thinking today, how should I actually summarize this thing for you? And I thought, let me just take this simplified stratigraphic column or lithostratigraphic column from the, what do you call it, the BRGM maps, and try to highlight for each stratigraphic intervals what the mining potentials are. And therefore, I went one by one. So for those, let me just, since I'm opening here the PowerPoint, I'll just make some drawings. So everything here is basically the, let me make this no fill and give it, just, sorry, a minute, make this red just to highlight this. So this is alloctonous, and this would be the autochthonous and the para-autochthonous as well. And this stuff here, the Cretaceous stuff, is what I mentioned a minute ago, which is called the Kahla or the Cow formations. So this is the late Cretaceous stuff. I think so, or maybe I'm mistaken actually. Maybe this is the Kahla. Yeah, I think that's the Kahla. Sorry, this would be the Kahla. This should be somewhere here, I guess, the Kahla. Yeah, so I'll go one by one how it works. So if we go here, so for the basement. So the basement is all these very old rocks that was that formed basically the basis of the Arabian plate. And there are three places. I'll just open Google Earth. There are three places where the basement outcrops. There is Jabal Qahwan, for instance, in the northeast corner. There is Al Juba here, in Mahud. And then you have obviously Marbat Plain as well as Juzur al-Halaniyat. And in the basement, you can see various potential of mining, feldspar, barite veins. You can find barite veins. I'll go through these things. Ornamental stones, like for instance, igneous rocks, like granite, larvikite, or other types of what do you call it, igneous rocks that can be used as ornamental stones. So that can come from the basement, and as far as I know, nobody is producing from this at the moment. Then you go to the Bua group. So this is the basement, and then this is the Bua group. In petroleum, the Nafun group. This is called the Nafun group. One of the formations there is called Bua group. Sorry, Bua formation. So this group here, the Nafun group, as well, is the source rocks for most of the oil in Oman. More than 80% of the oil and gas in Oman comes from this group. In terms of mining, it does not have very high potential. It includes very hard rocks that can be used as aggregates. And in near Duqm, most of the crushers, they actually mine the, what do you call it, the Nafun group. Usually the Bua formation, or one of the deeper formations as well in the same group. And there is also another group there called, what do you call it, Abu Mahara, but I don't think they mine it there. Anyway, so, sorry, somebody wanted to say something? Anyways, I'll just continue. So this is the Nafun group here. So aggregates, also dolomite. There is magnesium content within this group can be as high as 20% or maybe even slightly more. And that makes it also very good to produce dolomite. And dolomite would be good, for instance, for glass industries and stuff. Potash can be found within the Ara group. There is a small group here that forms between the Precambrian and Cambrian, the intracambrian, and it's called the Ara group. And it's basically salt deposit. And there you can find potash and salt. Potash, it's potassium sulfate, I think, and it's very good as a fertilizer. It's very expensive rock or substance. One of the best fertilizers. Most of its uses is in the fertilizing industry. It's very good for plants and very expensive. So some countries, they actually do something called geosolution mining, whereby they inject solution deep into the subsurface using, for instance, boreholes. They reproduce it again to make potash. There is also other salt substances that can be found within the Ara salt. Then we have the, this is Amda formation now here, but I wrote here and equivalent rocks. So equivalent rocks, things like Amin formation, Maqrat formation, Bashaya formation, all these formations that we can see or find in central Oman. Amda formation we can find in Sehatat. So here, the only place where Amda formation is identified is in Sehatat. You can see it as brown units, all these brown units that you see here in this mountain. Sehatat mountain is called the Amda formation. The Amda formation is Paleozoic or early Paleozoic in age. So it spans an age of, say, 520 million years ago to about 450 or so, or slightly more. So it's really very thick, about 3.4 kilometer in thickness. And it's good for two things, primarily quartz, and also within the quartz, you can find quartz veins that can actually have gold potential, but nobody has looked at this before. So it needs further studies. You know, one of the things that can be potentially attractive. And then you have the Garif and Al-Khalata. I just added them here because it wasn't appearing in the lithostratigraphic column of BRGM. So Garif Al-Khalata, for instance, one of the most important petroleum reservoirs in central and south Oman. Garif is the highest in production in South Oman, for instance, as a formation. And we can produce from them, especially Garif actually, laterite, as well as kaolinite, low quality kaolinite, let's say in the Garif formation. It's produced from Mahut area, usually used as additive for cement factory. Then we have the Mahil formation, also called Sudair in the subsurface, where dolomite is also can be very good. and it can also be used for aggregates. And Mahil is Triassic in age. Okay, so now we're moving from the Paleozoic. We went through the Precambrian, Paleozoic, and now we're getting into the Mesozoic. So very thick rocks, and you can actually, if you look at this, for instance, here, this would be Samail somewhere here, and this would be Wadi Mistel. If some of you went to Wakan, this would be Wakan. So if you are in Wakan and looking at the cliffs here, a lot of these formations, yellow in color for actually Mahil dolomite texture, which is usually a texture that can be seen for. So Mahil is one of the potential rock sequences to produce dolomite. Then we have aggregates that can be produced as well from Nati Kama group like Shuaiba. Although these are very important for petroleum, not much of potential for mining for the time being. Nobody knows, maybe in future they will evolve into being more potential. Then we get into the Hawasina group, so we go in sequence, and I hope those who are the geoscientists who hear us, they will realize why they're coming on top of each other like this. So we have Hamr Duru' here, then we have Al-Arad group, then we have Kaur group, then we have Umar group, and then we have the ophiolite here with the mantle and the crustal sequence. And I hope some of you realize why they come on top of each other like this. You can see between each unit or group, there is a thrust, a low angle thrust basically drawn here. So between the Hamra Duru' group and the Al-Arad group, there is a thrust, and also between the Arad and Kaur and so forth. Why? Let me maybe jump into this cross section. This is a cross section that I redrew from previous other publications. And this explains it. This explains my question to you, is why do you see them like that? So what we had during the Mesozoic, let's say, and the late Paleozoic, so Cretaceous, Jurassic, Triassic, Permian, you have the Arabian platform, Nati being deposited here, then you get all the other carbonate sequences here and this is the sea level, okay? So you have the Hamra Duru' group, which is basically mainly slope deposits as well as deep oceanic deposits here. And then you get Al-Arad group. This is here, Al-Arad group. Actually, I should have added here Al-Arad group. And then you have the Kaur group here. This is Kaur group. This is Umar group. And then you have the ophiolite. So when the emplacement happened, I'll just draw it for you. There was the ophiolite doing this, riding on top of the Umar group. Okay, and then the same thing. Then later on, as the abduction continued, the same thing happened. So Al-Arad Umar group came on top of Kaur group, and then Kaur group went on top of Al-Arad group. Al-Arad group went on top of Hamra Duru' group, and then Hamra Duru' group went on top of the carbonate platform. So it's what's so-called piggyback structure. They sometimes call it piggyback, although this term is not heavily used in geology now. It's like, I don't know if you can see my hands, but basically everyone is riding on top of each other. And then the one which is the closest to the carbonate platform was actually residing the lowest. So when we go back here, you will see first Hamra Duru' group, and then you get later Al-Arad group, then you get Kaur group, then you get Umar group, and then you get the ophiolite. So that's why they're stacking on top of each other. The most distal from the carbonate platform, which is the ophiolite, is the top in the sequence. The closest, which is the Hamra Duru' and the Sumaini group, I'm not showing here the Sumaini, are actually the lowest in the sequence. They are on top of the... So the Hamra Duru' group would have manganese potential within it. It can also have copper actually and gold, maybe not have potential. It won't probably be high potential, but there is possibility of finding these deposits there. It hasn't been studied thoroughly, so there is room for further studies. Then we have the intrusives, especially in eastern Oman, where kimberlite and diamonds might be found, but the potential is actually low. I'm not covering it here in the slides because I don't see much of potential to go through this at the moment. Al-Arad group and Kaur group are both good potential for marble, and you know they've been producing for a very long time now for marble. Then you have the Umar group, which can be potentially good for shale, for manganese, for lead and zinc, and as for marble as well. And by the way, the marble was primarily produced because of the what do you call it, tectonometamorphism. It's let's say it's like metamorphic sediments, commercial marble, let's say, that has been metamorphosed by the tectonic forces during the replacement of the ophiolite. Otherwise, the Kaur group and Al-Arad group are both, as you see from cartoon here, these are seamounts or atolls that were sitting in the ocean, and they were basically abducted on top of one. Anyways, then we go to the metamorphic soil. By the way, the metamorphic soil is this thrust here. So this thrust here, as you see here, I'm highlighting, which separates between the ophiolite and everything below it, is what we call the metamorphic soil, and it includes various types of metamorphic rocks that have been produced by the shearing forces of this huge unit of ophiolite as it was traveling on top of the lower units. Then we have the mantle part, so what we call tectonized Hasbergite, and these are potentially good for chromite, and then also olivine and dunite. So chromite is produced from this, mainly from the boundary between the mantle and the crust, usually formed as pods, and in very rare occasion as stratiforms. So like pods or veins within these units, and it can also be found actually within the mantle itself, away from the contact zone. And then you have the gabbro, and then you get three types of gabbro. You get the cumulative layered gabbro, which is you can see layered gabbro here, and the planar laminated gabbro on the top part, and then the high level gabbro, which tends to be probably of, I don't know if that's a right statement to say, maybe as hardness, maybe slightly lower quality than this gabbro. But that is not always the case. Then you have something called trondhjemite, or sometimes people call it white granite or quartz diorite, which is actually very good color. And I'm a bit surprised that nobody is actually using it as dimension stone. It's white in color. It's like granite, which is white, very beautiful. Maybe the reason why people do not mine it here in Oman is because it's usually it tends to be highly weathered, and also it occur or happens as small units or small intrusives, and not very large to mine. But with more studies and exploration and crustal sequence, so within the pillow lava and on top of it as massive sulfide. Recent industry, maybe it started 2 decades ago or so, or around that time, and it requires certain composition of basalt in order to produce fiber basalt, which can then be used in different industries. And then the top part, the tertiary, is good for limestone, gypsum, coal, in some places, a tapulgite, which is a type of clay, and the bentonite, guano in some places, not much, maybe not that much of potential anyway, and gemstones, but not much as well. And then obviously on the top part we can find clay, sabkha as well, I'm not writing here, which can be good for potash in some places, and aggregates. Okay, I hope this was a good summary. It took more time than I anticipated. Anyways, so I will go now into this sequence. You can see here the sequence. You can see here the cover sediments of the Cretaceous. This is where the laterite is usually found, and the tertiary. Then you have the ophiolite, then Umar group. This is the, what do you call it? Sometimes the cover group would be here. And then you have the Hamra Drura group, and then you have here the autochthonous units. This is a paper where we're trying to publish in these days. It's just redrawing figure from previous what do you call it literature, basically, to show how the process has happened. Okay, we go one by one. Maybe I have 10 slides. Hopefully they won't take more than a minute, than 10 minutes. I will try to keep it quick. So what we have here, the basement. So the basement, I said, it can be very good for commercial exploitation. We have it in Jebel Qahwan, and also close to, let's say, north of Al Kamil, and all the way to Wadi Bani Khalid in some places, but mostly in Jebel Qahwan. We have the basement outcrops there, and can be used to basically produce feldspar, but that requires further studies. And feldspar would be good for ceramic industries, for glass. It can also be good for, as dimension stone. And we also have barite veins. And by the way, barite, for those who work in petroleum industries, they would know barite very well. For those who work in the rig site, because barite, either for mining, actually, drilling for mining or drilling for petroleum, we use often barite as to increase the mud weight while drilling. So that is one of the famous application of barite. This is a vein of barite. For those who don't know barite, it looks like this, creamy color, pinkish in some places. And you can see here a vein of barite within the Juba, what do you call it, deposit, or sorry, Juba outcrops for the basement here. And this is granodiorite here, and here it's a composition of various things, including granite and basalt mafic and felsic rocks. So a lot of basement outcrops in Oman, not much of use so far. Potash and solar salt. This is a picture I took of one of the solar plants, solar salt plants in Oman, near Mhout, actually, between Mhout and Duqm. And you can see here they using evaporation ponds in order to produce salt. And this salt would have different composition and can be used then for various things. Maybe even to produce coloring agents or production of other things like fertilizers. There is also potash. So the right figure here, the map, satellite image, you can see here Salim Sabha, which is one of the largest Sabha in Oman, and currently there are studies to see whether there is potash potentially within this. But there is also potash actually down in the subsurface within the Ara salt. We've seen these from petroleum wells. Some petroleum wells, they've drilled through the potash. In some wells, potash is as thick as 80 meters or 100 meters. Potash is very expensive material, and it gets more and more expensive in general over time, because again, as I said, it's very good as a fertilizer. There is also bentonite, and bentonite is a type of clay. And Hamra group, basically within the chert. And another deposit, so I don't think there is any chance. Can potentially be good. This is near Iski, bentonite deposits there. Copper Oman obviously is known for copper, and it's the land of Majan, so land of copper, as called by Mesopotamia, which is Iraq today, modern Iraq today, الحضارة السومرية، حضارة ما بين النهرين أو بلاد ما بين النهرين. So Oman was known as a copper exploitation place, and I've visited caves in Oman, for instance. You can't imagine how harsh the conditions for mining copper were during that time. There are some mines, ancient mines of copper that went up to 30 or 40 meters in underground, through small holes, where there can be some dangerous, insects or animals, like snakes, for instance, living there. So people have exploited copper for a very long time. In Oman, they started exploitation of copper since the 1970s from a mine called the Lasail, في وادي الجزي, or الأسيل. I think in Arabic they call it الأسيل, but when you read it in English it's like Asail. But I think that the proper way to say it in بالعربي is الأسيل. And there is about, the published figure is around more than 8 million tons. People who work in Mazoon or OMCO, they would have much better figure than I'm presenting here. But this is what I read in one of the written or published reports, with more than 2% of copper percentage within it. It stopped, actually. Copper production in Oman stopped from 1994 to 2008, and then it was rejuvenated after that with the Mawarid mining producing some copper. But there are many projects now in Oman producing from copper. Quite funny that actually, although copper stopped mining in that period, gold and silver continued, which is usually accompanying copper, because copper was thought sub-economic from these deposits where the gold and silver. So they've kept all of this copper that was produced in as a waste stuff that can be used later on. And because of the technologies now have improved significantly, this can be again refined and into economic concentrations. So new deposits have been found. There can be many more new deposits if we improve on the geophysical surveys. There are many concession blocks awarded. You can see here Mawarid, for instance, got block 1 and 2. Block 3 for Oman Mining Company, OMCO. Then block 4 as well. There is block 10 for Oman Mining Company. Now, these blocks are owned by a company called Mazoon, which is basically both OMCO and MDO, Minerals Development Oman. And then you get other blocks as well, owned by, I think one is called Autad, one for Autad, another one for Tamman, and so forth. You can see the production of copper actually decreased significantly in the last few years. And I think it stopped since 2015 or 16. Coal, we have coal in Oman, near Sur, in a wadi called Wadi Msawa, mainly. Jebel, close to Jebel Qahwan, and there is another Jebel there called Jebel Khamis. And there's actually quite a lot of coal there as seams. I think there are 14 seams of coal. I'm not sure about the number, but around this number, seams or layers of coal. You can actually see also coal in places even like Dar Said. If you go from after you pass Pidio as you're heading to Rui or Matrah, you will see one of the road cuts there has a bit of, although they actually covered it recently with clay. But anyway, you can still see in some places some coal there. But here in Musawa, you can see thick coal seams layered on top of each other. And there is about 100 million tons of estimated coal. Maybe 20%, around 20% of this is probably mineable. However, no mining of coal happened in Oman before, although the area has been studied thoroughly over years, but it hasn't been produced, and maybe it will never be produced, especially if renewable energy proves to be more economic and feasible than coal. But who knows, maybe at some stage the country decides to mine it. and think the area is protected anyway. So it's a governmental land to basically accommodate that possibility of mining in future if it happens. We also have rare earth minerals potential in Oman, or elements, and these are mostly here in the northeast corner of Oman, and currently there is global let's say global attention paid to rare earth elements, because they can be used for various industries, I think including manufacturing of batteries. So until now, no potential commerciality has been proved on this commodity or this potential, but with further studies, more drilling and more surveys, there could be some economic potential. And if there is economic potential, it can turn to be very lucrative, very profitable. There is also a Topol Guide. A Topol Guide is present in various places in Oman, mostly in Shuwaimiyya actually. But there is also a bit in Sur, near Sur as well. And a Topol Guide usually has this high ability of absorption. It can absorbs good quantities of fluids. That's why they use it for pets, you know, for the waste of pets, and they can also use it for oil in the oil industry, especially when there is a lot of water production from some wells, for paper industry as well, and other uses. No production yet from Oman, but I'm sure there are some companies who already got some concessions and they would be interested to produce this if there is economic feasibility on them. Gypsum is one of the commodities that has been produced from Oman substantially in the last few years, and it will hopefully continue to grow. We have a huge amount of gypsum reserves in Oman, especially in Shuwaimiyya, Thamreit, South Dhofar, and also in Ghaba. And in some places, the thickness of gypsum deposits in total, you know, the whole sequence of gypsum and hydrite as well as limestone is up to 100 meters or so. It is expected to increase, especially if we find good market for this production. There is also room to actually add a lot of local values. If some of you are willing to look at this, how to add further value into gypsum produced from Oman, and highlight this to mining companies in Oman, I'm sure they will be happy to listen to you and your ideas. And by the way, in mining, it's all, if somebody brings a smart idea of how to use these productions of reserves of various commodities, that can end up to be very profitable, very lucrative for the person or the company that initiated. Limestone, a lot of limestone in Oman, huge quantities of limestone, although it has been currently affected actually by the conditions in 2020, this year basically. But there is a lot of in-country value that can be capitalized. And it's a question of how to facilitate this. Limestone is, the uses of limestone is expected to increase globally, and Oman has very good quality of limestone. This is from Dr. Hayat's book, basically list of some occurrences of limestone, but in all cases, actually limestone is just everywhere in Oman. So if I go to Google Earth, all of this is just very good quality limestone. Ibri area, Buraimi, all of this area is good qualities, a bit in near North al-Batin as well, not much there, but a lot near Duqm. Or the eastern coast is almost all very good quality limestone in most places. So we do have that high quantity. It's about the market, and hopefully after COVID-19 things will start to open up significantly, because companies now have piles of stock of limestone because of the current pandemic. Dolomite, a lot of dolomite in various formations. So near Duqm you have the Precambrian Boa, is good dolomite, magnesium rich dolomite. You have the Mahil dolomite near Krayat, and also you have in Jebel Sumaini في محافظة البريمي. You can also get good dolomite also in South Dhofar. Also a lot of potential of dolomite in Oman. And in some places you get actually on top of the dolomite you get silica. And then therefore you can actually use both of them to make various industries use both silica and dolomite for instance, glass industry. So again, a bit of research on that, we can actually make this very commercial for Oman. Won't spend too much time now. Laterite we have in northeast Oman and other places in South al-Batin like Nakhal, Muscat near the Rusail cement plant. They also mining for low quality laterite. Let's say they use it as additive for cement. There is laterite also in Musira, actually, I'm not showing here. Laterite, most of the laterite here in Oman reserves are in near Ibra. So it's all of it is used as supplements for cement factories in Oman and UAE. There is a bit near Sur and Qalhat specifically. However, the good quality stuff which is there is mostly close to populated areas. So it's unlikely to be produced, but again, there might still be some potential. And then last but not least, the manganese has been declining in production in Oman, but there can still be significant increase in production, mostly from the Wahra formation. So the allochthonous nappes, the Hamra Duru, can have a lot of manganese within it. And I'm just showing here where the manganese is found. And it has been produced from Bdiya, for instance, for a while now, and Qabil as well. Okay, I think I ended. Sorry, it took more time than I expected, but I hope you enjoyed it. It took more than I anticipated in the beginning. Thank you very much, Abdul Mu'im. You still here?
Yes, Dr. Muhammad, I'm here. Just we can move now to the question. If someone, I think there's a question in the chat. If you open it. From Salmani. I will open.
Where can I see the? Okay, I can see two questions.
Okay.
Okay, to which formations this call belongs? To Musawa formation, and Musawa is basically Cenozoic in age, mostly Miocene in age. So basically that's Musawa formation, and what would be its age? Yeah, so Miocene in age. So basically Neogene, and I think partly also Oligocene. So Oligocene, Miocene. So it's basically after the deposition of the what's called Hadramaut group. What are REE is rare earth elements and PGM is platinum. Sorry, I actually jumped the chromite slide for some reason. Maybe very quickly, because I was mentioning this in the chromite slide. Did I go through the chromite slide? Probably not, huh? There was a slide about chromite. Maybe I deleted it by mistake. What a pity, actually.
We have talk about the chromite with Layla Al-Habsi in 27.
Okay, good. So we'll go through chromite. But anyway, PGM is a platinum group, metals. So they can also exist with the chromite, for instance, and they can be potentially good. There is also one question here on top from Muhammed Al-Harrasi. Could you please put the show in slide? Oh, that's just. Sorry, it's too late. I prefer usually to have it in normal show because I can zoom in and out easier with that, and I can also draw if I want. So again, sorry for this. Could you explain again the piggyback structure formed in Hasina Basin? Okay, let me just draw it for you. So piggyback is just a term used to explain nape, usually used to explain nape deposit, what do you call it, structure. So you have this kind of stuff here. So this would be all thrusts. Okay, and this one, I should extend this one further. So this would come all the way like this. Okay, and keep red. Sorry for my bad drawing. My drawing is usually better than this. It's just that I'm drawing on the computer now. So it's like thrusts on top of each other, and each thrust is going on top like this. So this thrust would be going up like that. And then the next one as well, like this, and then the next one like this, and then the next one like that. And then the formation, this formation here would be going on top like this. And then the one below it would be like that. I just used the term to explain this thing, but again, never mind about it much. It's not heavily used nowadays, I guess. So this is kind of piggyback. So each one is just going on top of each other. And the last thrust here is the one which is carrying everything to the carbonate platform. So this is usually the most distal. This would be the platform here, and this is the most distal. So in our case in Oman, this would be the Ophiolite, for instance. This would be the Umar group. This would be Kaur and Al-Arad group, and this would be Hamra Dru' group. So basically that's it. Okay, luckily no more questions.
One more question, Dr. Muhammad, is there?
One new message. Do we have any potentialities in Oman mountains to find? Yeah, we do have Mazen. But it's in oxides like maybe malachite and other stuff. Can be gemstones as well. The chert deposits, the jasper and other deposits within the chert can also be gemstones. What else? Lisbonite in North Oman can also include some gemstones within it. But in overall, it's not much of potential in Oman. And there is a book that was published by a lecturer in SKU. Her name is Guba. I think she's a German. I never met her myself. She used to teach in SKU, and she made a book about gemstones in Oman. Okay, so we have a number of more questions here. It's already 10 o'clock, but let's just go through them again. Okay, if there is zinc and lead within the mineralization in dolomite, that is potentially there, yes, and I've seen some reports actually mentioning them. There is also potential of both of these within the dolomite, within the metamorphic soil. There is also potential of this within the Hamra Durwa group. Again, not much of studies here, but it has been sampled and analyzed in places like near Fanja, for instance, within the metamorphic soil. Thanks for the presentation. Thank you very much. Any idea why production of some commodities declined recently? Not enough exploration. Okay, so if you go to chromite, it's bad management, frankly speaking. Chromite is badly managed here in Oman. There is not much of collaboration between companies. Hasn't been good management as well, I would say, from the authorities as well. That's one of the reasons we have not improved geophysical surveys on the chromite to produce it better. So bad management, one of the reasons. Sometimes the market as well has not been very attractive, and there is also a lot of market kind of influence on the production rates. Sometimes gypsum gets affected by that. I'm not experienced on this at very high level, but I know a bit about it. So again, I would say it depends from one commodity to another, but for chromite, I know very well that it's the way we're producing it is not optimum here in Oman. Okay, for top deposit, I'm not sure about it. I never came across it, but there are probably people in directorates of minerals will know better about it. I haven't seen it myself, but you probably have more experience in it more than myself. Two more or three more questions. Is there copper mineralization of light as well? Yes, there are. There is a lot. So most of copper occurrences in Oman as VMS deposits. So if you go to Yunqal and Block 4, so basically Wadi al-Jizi, it's this type of deposit, massive sulfide deposit. So yeah, that's what we produce here in Oman mostly. What is the challenge? Challenges facing mining, frankly speaking, the topmost challenge is experienced geoscientists. So we need to have smart people, both in exploration, mining, marketing, and production as well, in order for us to make this industry more attractive and lucrative. Hasn't been much of advancement. Personally, I'm disappointed with the way we're tackling this industry, but we're living with it. Al-Muhallab has a question as well. Do you have an idea if there are mining companies in Oman that could offer training for? Well, there are a number of them. You could also actually contact PAM, previously PAM, now Directorate of Minerals, to give you a list of these companies. They every so often offer training programs, either consultancy company or production companies. If you can actually contact the authorities, they might give you a list. You can also you can also probably, I don't know if you speak to Minister of Manpower, but there are, I mentioned a few companies. They every so often put training programs like MDO, OMCO, Oman Chromite, for instance, Tamman, Gulf Mining, maybe. Other companies, big companies, mining companies here in Oman can offer this. But again, if you can go to the directorate and ask them, that will be good potential. Sometimes we do accept as consultancy companies trainees, but we obviously have limited number because of our limited resources. I think I covered all questions. I don't want to keep you late. Thank you very much, everybody. I really hope that you find this interesting, and sorry if I didn't cover any of the subjects very well. The last question here, is there any study yes, there is currently a study, I believe, done by SQU, and there has been previous studies as well. So nickel basically with the ophiolite, with the chromite. So I was told that PAM, again, previous name PAM, was to start a study on nickel with SQU. Thank you very much, everybody. I will have to leave you now. If you have any further questions, you can always email me. I've put my email in the first slide of the presentation. If you have any further questions, this is my email here.
شكرا دكتور محمد.
شكرا.
Thank you
Thanks.
all for
Good night,
attending.
everybody.
Good night all.
Thank you.
Thank you.